Sheriff Todd Baxter, employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, District Attorney Brian P. Green, employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, Paul C. Messer, James Shmuley Jr. in Pennsylvania Court. My name is Chris Chichester. Today is Monday, August 24th, 2026. This is the Freedom of Information Law. This is for you. $113,000 Perry Duckles of the District Attorney's Office and $140,000 Public Defender Julie Sianka. Because when I finish this YouTube and I send the email, I'm going to address it to you, Perry Duckles, and you, Julie Sianka, even though the District Attorney's name is on here. Because you have access to this information that you can easily send to me. Both of you do. So what's the problem? Why are you refusing to send me information you have in an electronic file or paper file? It's because you're sick, that's why. So, Freedom of Information Law dated August 24, 2026. Documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester with John P. Lomenzo Jr., Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information. Deputy District Attorney Perry Duckles and Public Defender Julie Sianka sent it to me. Freedom of Information Law dated August 24, 2026. Attached in PDF. Documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester before Paul C. Messer, Pennsylvania Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information, $113,000 Perry Duckles and $140,000 Julie Sianka. Send it to me. Freedom of Information Law dated this August 24, 2026. Documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester, Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. You have this information, $113,000 Deputy District Attorney Perry Duckles and $140,000 Public Defender Julie Sianka. Sent it to me at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. What's the problem? That's just mind-blowing that I cannot acquire this information. It's been 4 years. Who is it? Is the prosecutor before John P. Lomenzo Jr., Julie Hahn, or not? Who's on Monroe County Court with 17% of the vote where she's defeated? I know the likeness and the image of the male before Paul C. Metzler, because I went up right to him in Pennsylvania Court. I said to him, as I stood a foot away from him, "You're going to stand there in total silence and not talk?" He stared straight ahead. Because you cannot make an argument that I committed a crime. I want to contact you, District Attorney Brian P. Green. I'm going to ask, why didn't he just dismiss the charges if he can't make an argument that I committed a crime? And I've never committed a crime. It's an impossible argument. Can he make that motion, if it's called a motion or not, Mr. District Attorney, or Perry Duckles or Julie Sianka? Because you are attorneys and you also know the answer. If a prosecutor can't make an argument in open court and can't talk about the criminal charge as a lie, is it the common sense, ethical thing to do, decision to make, is to dismiss the charge? Can that be done in court? Yes, right? So, documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester, Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor? District Attorney Brian P. Green. Unlike Pennsylvania Court, where I know the likeness of the prosecutor before John P. Lomenzo Jr., and I know the likeness of the prosecutor before Paul C. Metzler. I have no idea who this is. I was in there before him, where he wished me good luck, and Alex Renzi said to me that I was finished and done. Psychopaths and freaks at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office of Todd Baxter. If you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, want to concoct the crime for me, I really want to know what this piece of fucking fiction is going to be, you skinhead and stooge. And Sheriff Todd Baxter, I noticed that you have some private business going on where you're profiting from it. Is that correct? Because Legislator Rachel Barnhart has a thing for you, Sheriff. So I'm going to be contacting you about your personal finances, which I've already been doing. And then when I contact Rachel Barnhart, I'm going to say to her, I've been demanding from the sheriff for 4 years that he disclose his finances to me, any personal financial disclosure, and he's refused. And what would your response to that be, Sheriff Todd Baxter? Todd Thurston or Michael Rather or Kathleen Miller or Brendan Hurley, William Tadeo. Do you know that the sheriff of Monroe County is profiting from the fact that he is the sheriff of Monroe County with a private side business that I think is some ridiculous thing like consulting or security? Do you know why he's doing this, employees in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office? Because Sheriff Todd Baxter is sick and corrupt and a degenerate. And he's the oldest cliche that goes back 2,000 years in the Bible, which he's greedy. So, who is it? And you're thinking now at 5 minutes, how do we send a document to him in the mail and force him into court? We can declare him guilty of something, and then he'll be in Monroe County Jail. Because people who are sick and people who are psychopaths and freaks, I now know, are predictable. So it's 7:30 p.m. I yet to hear a siren go by from the 99% white KKK Rochester Fire Department or a siren from the Rochester Police Department. I really hope they didn't murder anybody in the street like Daniel Prude again or anybody else. And I didn't hear a siren go by from this medical response racket that is through the city 50 times a day. I went to Patrick Printing on East Main Street where I go every day. This is about as bad as I've seen it. It was just sirens everywhere. Right around noon, I went to see my excellent friend Andrew, who's worked there for 4 years. And we have talked about this previously. Because I've said to him, you notice these sirens? He said, all day long. All day long sirens in Rochester. No, Lunatic Fringe doesn't happen in Albany, New York. Doesn't happen in Washington, D.C. Reason why the city is a corrupt freak show. Here's a corrupt freak show right here. Former District Attorney Sandra Dorley and her corrupt freak show, former director of the grand jury, Michelle Crowley, sent me this information, Michelle Crowley, because just like my prosecutor's sons that Brian P. Green has the names of, you have this information too. Information about the grand jury given by District Attorney Sandra Dorley and Todd Christopher Chides as one, the day, month, and year the grand jury is convened. 2, the assigned District Attorney's office employee to address the grand jury. 3, the witness that testified to the grand jury for the vote of the grand jury is transcript of the grand jury proceeding. District Attorney Brian P. Green, is he on policy at the District Attorney's office? I know you weren't there when this grand jury was impaneled. But it is the policy not to call the target of the grand jury to testify right there in the witness box? Because this sick freaking psychopath, Michelle Crowley, could have placed me in that witness box. I would have sat there for as long as she wanted. And she could ask me question after question. Why did that happen? I'm not afraid of any perjury trap or anything like that. Because ethical, honest lawyers know what a perjury trap is. And if that was to happen to me, where anything I say is going to be perjury, that's how I view a perjury trap. Is that correct, District Attorney Brian P. Green? But why wasn't I called? Why don't you ask the former director of the grand jury, Michelle Crowley, promoted, why she didn't call me? Is that unethical, in your opinion, Mr. District Attorney, or not? For her to assemble a grand jury, I don't know is convened, where I am indicted, where Michael Luan lies under oath and saying I swung a hammer at him on my back porch in Penfield. And I'm going to write this down in greater detail, even though I already have. And I'm going to quote myself here, saying this exact language. Or I'm going to quote myself in a correspondence using this language, Mr. District Attorney. So, information about the grand jury convened by District Attorney Sandra Dorley, 2, Todd Christopher Chides as one, day, month, and year the grand jury is convened. 2, the assigned District Attorney's office employee to address the grand jury. 3, the witness that testified the grand jury. 4, the vote of grand jury's transcript of the jury proceeding. Mr. District Attorney, is there a transcript or not? Because I want to see the exact language from Michael Luan where he says I swung a hammer at him when I'm running away the whole time. My forward motion is carrying me across the back porch. And since I have been a runner since I was 12 years old, it's easy to outrun this freak, Michael Luan, and the other freak he's with, Don Benedetto. Mr. District Attorney, is it legal for the police in the United States of America, Monroe County, State, New York, to hide on private property? When I say hide, they came running from the bushes of my 80-year-old neighbor across from 26 Sandstrom Drive in Penfield. If you drive down Sandstrom Drive, you can look to the left, it's the first house, 26, and then to the right is this elderly woman's house. The only reason why I did not tell her that freaks that are sick, Michael Luan and Don Benedetto on a property, is her age. That's why. So, what's the answer? This is a grand jury that violates my civil and constitutional rights that I don't know is impaneled. Michelle Crowley, what's the problem in Jonestown? What flavor is the Kool-Aid in Jonestown for you, Michelle Crowley? So, I'm at the Penfield Public Library. This is how I'm going to be delivered to Livingston County Jail, even though I've lived in Monroe County since 2012. Even though I had presently lived in Penfield. Because Sheriff Todd Baxter, Richard Seatman, drove over to where I lived at 26 Sandstrom Drive, and then watched me exit my residence, walk down Penfield Road, get to Bed Road, walk into the Penfield Public Library, and he stalked me into the library, ran at me, slammed me in the head. I fell down on the the ceramic tile, and it's called violence upon me that you embrace because it doesn't matter to you that Seatman violently attacked me. So in my pocket is $61.39. Send that check to me, Sheriff Todd Baxter. I was saying when I was leaving Livingston County Jail, because the freak show, what happened to me, I was in Livingston County, Geneseo. Then I had to be driven back to Monroe County Jail to out process. And I was saying, where's my money? And then they gave me a check that I was holding up on YouTube that I didn't cash. So I want to hold it up and say, this is the price of violence. Send me that money, Sheriff Todd Baxter. The reason why I don't have it, the check to hold up anymore, is they can't locate it, or my second eviction. Again, the law is broken. I'm not doing anything to be evicted. Psychopath landlords can do whatever they want to and violate the law. So I don't think I have it in my boxes that I have. I have to look for it. But I have, I think, a copy of this check I'm going to send to you. Send me this money, Sheriff Todd Baxter. It's the issuance of a new check to Christopher Chichester, your address below, for an expired check in the amount of $61.39. From the County Monroe Office Sheriff and May Fund account. That's the dollar amount in the pocket of Chichester when he violently attacked Penfield Public Library, 785-904, Richard Seatman, in Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. August 24th, 2024. So the last one is defective documents in the case of Dan DeLaus III in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr. John P. Lomenzo Jr. does not recuse himself from the case of Dan DeLaus III in Penfield Town Court, even though he knows the family. So that's the Freedom of Information Law 6 here. 6. Excuse me. You will comply on this August 24th with 0. August 24th, 2024. See that, Sandra Dorley? 2 years ago today. August 24th, 2024. Sandra Dorley, District Attorney, 47 South Fitchett Street, Rochester, New York. 14614 attached to the Freedom of Information Law document dated August 24, 2024 that compels you to disclose the names on process of silence. The simple language, your adult brain. 1, documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester for John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penfield Town Court. What is then prosecuted District Attorney Sandra Dorley. 2, documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester Paul C. Metzer in Penfield Town Court. What is then prosecuted District Attorney Sandra Dorley. 3, documentation for the case for Christopher Chichester for Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. What is then prosecuted District Attorney Sandra Dorley. Mail the names of my prosecutors on the address listed below. What's not to understand? It is insane for you to reject the law you sworn to uphold as district attorney. I've been an innocent man in jail 6 times because some good taxpayer finance freaks, psychopaths resign. Christopher Chichester. It is insane for you to reject the law you sworn to uphold as district attorney. Is that the right word or not? As you're rejecting the law you sworn to uphold, Perry Douglas and Julie Sianka. That's just a total disgrace. 13 minutes and 40 seconds. I'll never know if you're watching me. But I'm really talking every single time to the New York State Legislature, the United States Department of Justice, Monroe County Legislature, Rochester City Council. That's who I really care about. Because they have control and power over you with the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office. And I think you're in total oblivion about regulatory power over you. Sheriff Todd Baxter, this is where I am. I'm going to tell you where I am. Send Richard Seatman over here. This is where I am, 270 on East. You see that, Sheriff Todd Baxter? That's my lease here, where I was helped at the Department of Veterans Affairs. This is an Eagle Star property. This is where I am, Sheriff Todd Baxter, 270 on East. When I leave tomorrow to go for my run, send Richard Seatman over here. Tell him to run at me, slam me in the head. I'll fall down. I know I can take a beating because of you, Sheriff Todd Baxter. So I've sent over and over and over. This will arrive again. The criminal complaints that you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, ignore because you're corrupt, because you're a joke, because you're sick. If by some miracle these people are arrested, when I rewrite the criminal complaint with more language and greater detail, it's just going to be dismissed by the corrupt judge. That is just like Paul C. Metzer or John P. Lomenzo Jr. or James C. Jr. or Alex Renzi. July 22nd, 2023. I sent, I think now 100 times documentation saying what's the status of these criminal complaints. They just arrived, I think, twice in the last week, 4 times in the last 2 weeks. Attached are 4 criminal complaints with this language. That Richard J. Seaton, the Mountain County Sheriff's Office, walked to the Pembroke Public Library in Pembroke, New York, ran at Christopher Chichester, slammed his arm down at Chichester, causing the fall backwards and hit his head on the ceramic tile floor. They were shot. Layla Kumar shot 2033 Pembroke Road, Pembroke, New York, 14526. False report incident Christopher Chichester, for only 26 seconds from driving, walked to a park lot next to his residence. 3. Antonio Spano, Fairport, New York, locked front and back doors of the residence, 26 Central and Drive, Pembroke, New York, without a court order. 4. Laura Ride, Webster, New York, transport the personal belongings to Christopher Chichester with 26 Central from Drive, Pembroke, New York, to a storage locker in Webster, New York, without a court order. These are crimes. Each individual will not be arrested or prosecuted. There's 1 day in jail, sir, for these crimes. It's drug and life because you're incapable of identifying crime. You're not crimes for instance, you hate the human condition. 2 links, rejection for 113-918 Perry Douglas, 112-508 Mark Monahan, unconstitutional on Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney San Giorgio, Alex Renzi resigned. That's exactly right here. When I say each individual will not be arrested or prosecuted, I do not have certainty and confidence in that. But my guess is that is correct. Lunatic fringe. He ignores me. He concocts crimes for me. Well, I haven't committed a crime. That's what matters to Sheriff Todd Baxter. Fiction and lies. That's what matters to this bald-headed, skin-headed, fucking psychopathic freak. Fiction and lies. It's like, it doesn't matter that Michael Houlihan lied under oath. Criminal claim for perjury, 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Mountain County Sheriff's Office. The 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, the Mountain County Sheriff's Office, walked on the private property across the residence 26 Sandstrom Drive in Pembroke, New York, with Christopher Chichester. Houlihan ran at Chichester approximately 1 a.m. with $85,000 Don Benedetto of the Sheriff's Office. Chichester ran away from Houlihan. Benedetto wanted aware of the identities. At Chichester grabbed her hammer alongside the residence next to his bike, used to fix the bike's tire. That as Chichester placed his foot on the first of 3 steps on the back porch, Houlihan grabbed his arm, the hammer, Chichester's hands forwards upwards. Chichester ran across the back porch through a sliding glass door, and as Chichester never stopped running, his power swing the hammer at 73312 Michael Houlihan. Sheriff Todd Baxter, as Chichester never stopped running, it's impossible to swing the hammer at 73312 Michael Houlihan. I'm going to tell you how to be the sheriff if you're watching me here at 17 minutes. Call Michael Houlihan into your office and ask him about this night. Don't even mention my name. Ask to see if he remembers this night. Because they're stalking me in Pembroke, New York. That's why. I cannot swing a hammer at Michael Houlihan when I run away. District Attorney Brian P. Green, when I appeared before the illustrious $200,000 Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, you know what he told me, Mr. District Attorney? Attempted felony assault, which is why I'm in Livingston County Jail, Geneseo, New York, doesn't exist in the law of the state of. I don't believe everything he says because he's corrupt. But that does make it easy for me to intellectually process because the word attempted can mean anything. You, District Attorney Brian P. Green, can attempt to assault Sheriff Todd Baxter. Then how is the word attempted defined? Sheriff Todd Baxter can attempt to assault Public Defender Julie Sianka, and how is the word attempted defined? Because it could mean anything. So, criminal offense perjury. This is 2025 Penfield Road, Sheriff Todd Baxter. I just read this last night again. That's a camera. May 19, 2025. I don't hear anything from him 3 months ago. Do you recognize the device fixed to a building in 2025 Penfield Road, Penfield, New York? You are the lunatic fringe answer. When I say to him, answer, he never thinks he has to answer anything. Sheriff Todd Baxter. Because before I wrote that language, I wrote this language about that same camera. January 16, 2023. This photographs why you're a fanatic. This photographs why you're an extremist. This photographs why you're a liar. This photographs why they know the name. You're $67,000 disgusting ass Shannon Meyer. This photographs why people hate the police. Sheriff Todd Baxter. This photographs why people hate the police. If he is asked, employees of the Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office, Pembroke Town Court, New York State Supreme Court, and Public Defender, why do American citizens hate the police? You know what the answer from him is? I cannot get inside his mind, so a guess is. The way he'll answer is that idiotic rambling where he talks and talks and talks, where it just requires a simple answer. An answer that is 3, 4, 5 sentences. This skinhead and stewed sheriff will talk for 10 minutes in nothingness. But as far as why do people hate the police, I really believe he does not know. He doesn't get it. Even though he has criminals, freaks, perjurers, sociopaths, psychopaths, degenerates, and fanatics working for him, he cannot intellectually process why people hate the police. And I believe that even if he does know, he's never going to say anything. He's never going to say one critical word. Even the most lazy throwaway language, like we could do a better job here at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in understanding civil and constitutional rights and how we evaluate what are crimes in Monroe County. Just a simple language like that, that he's incapable of that because he's sick. So this arrived on July 10th, 2026. July 10th, 2026, July 10th, 2025, July 10th, 2024, July 10th, 2023, Brian P. Green, Todd Baxter. On July 10th, 2023, comply with this 26 Freedom of Information Law documents attached to PDF dated July 10, 2023, you sociopaths. This information includes mailing names of my prosecutors, South Sea address below, 620 Park Avenue, listed below my name. You refuse because you're drenched in fanaticism, corruption, and hatred. I prosecuted South before, Lomenzo, Metz, and Renzi. So, this language is to you, Brian P. Green. On July 10, 2026, 3 years earlier, went to Sandra Dorling, but she ignored it. Have you had any contact with her? District Attorney Brian P. Green? Have you ever talked to her since she resigned in disgrace or not? I'd really like to know the answer to that question. So this is right here. For you, Brian P. Green, on July 10th, same language. There's my handwriting. July 10th, there's your name, Brian P. Green. Who is it before John P. Lomenzo Jr.? Here's the same language on July 10th. There's your name again, Paul C. Metzer. John P. Lomenzo Jr., Paul C. Metzer, Alex Renzi. Who is it? Not one goddamn word from any of these prosecutors. Total silence. And I've been in jail 6 times. Monroe County Jail, Rochester, New York. Livingston County Jail in Geneseo, New York. I don't have civil and constitutional rights. The Constitution does not apply to me as an American citizen. So, you got this, District Attorney Brian P. Green. I've written a Freedom of Information Law 1,000 times to expose your absolute contempt for the law, to demand information about internal operations in Monroe County District Attorney's Office where you're unaware of the truth that you're a corrupt spectacle. You're in fear of citizens learning that you violate civil and constitutional rights of innocent citizens, such as with your insane grand jury process where the subject of it is not called to testify. What's my name? Resign, freak. That's the District Attorney Sandra Dorling on July 10, 2025, when she was still in office. That language is not to you, District Attorney Brian P. Green. I do not think you were at the District Attorney's office before being elevated to District Attorney. 1 year prior to that, this is the July 10, 2024, Sandra Dorling, the address. This is a transcript of every argument made by your prosecutors, the detailing crime and care practice, nothing there. District Attorney Brian P. Green and employees in the District Attorney's office, where is that memo, if in fact it's a memo, or internal communication that Sandra Dorling wrote, where she is in the language ordering and directing District Attorney's Office employees to pursue the maximum possible sentence against defendants? I'm going to write the foil for that. I only read one news story about that. I'm surprised that did not get greater exposure in Monroe County. And then I'm not surprised because the Democrat Chronicle is a joke. This ridiculous media, which is WROC and WHEC, doesn't cover the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. What they are effectively the de facto press office for the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office, because if someone's convicted of crime, all you have to do is tell them and they'll put it in the media. If someone's arrested, all you have to do is tell them and they'll put it in the media. And they have no interest in the facts and circumstances of anything the Sheriff's Office or Rochester Police Department, District Attorney's Office, or any court does, the local media, which is really a shame. I walked by the Democrat and Chronicle on Friday when I went to Patrick Printing to get my latest printing done that I sent over the weekend to your offices. And every single time I walk by the Democrat and Chronicle, once great newspaper, I think they had the usual 200, 300 employees 40 years ago. There's nobody in there. I've never once seen anybody in there even exiting the building. So on May 12th, what is the status of the criminal complaints I just read? May 12th, June, July, August, 3 months ago. He ignores the law, Sheriff Todd Baxter, because he's sick. The law doesn't matter to him, ever. The law is for other people, and he is above the law, which is a pathetic cliche. April 14, 2026. I don't have my original DD 214 because of you. How am I just 6 times a prosecutor doesn't make an argument in Pennsylvania Court in New York City Supreme Court that I committed a crime? I had my DD 214 in my 1980 Mercury Capri when I left 17 Cavalry, 101st Airborne Division in 1988. So last August 28th, 2025, I contacted Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Dorley about how I don't have my DD 214. I had in my possession 40 years because it's two people: Antonio Spano, Fairport, New York, and Laura Riley, Webster, New York. Doesn't matter. Everything's gone, including a document that I had since 1988. And the answer is no. Soul Man hasn't been arrested. It's as obvious as it gets, that crime. It's also obvious that to take my things to a storage locker, which my ex-girlfriend, Laura Riley, did as a crime, she's throwing things out. Like all my books are gone because of her. I'm going to be in here in more detail about that. There's my DD 214 right there. I had to get a copy. I had to get that sent to me. And this is what I was just talking about. August 28th. This is to Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Dorley. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll just read the first graph. 40 years ago today, on August 28, 1985, aboard an airplane to LaGuardia Airport in New York City for a flight to El Paso, Texas. It's my first day of United States Army basic training, Fort Bliss. It will last 10 weeks. This short period of time changes my life to clarify dedication, perseverance, commitment, and a determination to always pursue excellence. The first day of basic training, because there's a brief time where you have to get your hair cut, which is like 2 or 3 days, and they have to issue you your BDUs. That's relatively normal. And then when they take you over to where the barracks are, where basic training really starts, these screaming from the drill sergeants, I've never seen anything like this. I had the typical experience. He was right here in front of my face, screaming at me, using profanity and using other language I don't believe you can use today. This is 40 years ago. And I was standing there and thinking, because I was told that this was going to happen by a friend of mine, and thinking, keep it together and be cool. And this is a life experience I'm thrilled I had, because the way they were screaming and yelling at, there were about 40 of us outside, new recruits, new soldiers, I should say. It was really difficult. It wasn't easy to do. And I'm glad this happened to me. And doesn't make me anything special, because there were 40 other soldiers there too. And millions of veterans understand this. But when I look at my DD 214, I have a different thought about service, because it's gone, because it's a copy. So I'm a graduate of 10-day United States Army Air Assault School. My Air Assault badge is gone. Does that matter? My Army Commendation Medal is gone. My Army Achievement Medal is gone. Everything is gone. Matrix. Sheriff Todd Baxter. Comply with the 26 free information law documents PDF dated July 10, 2026. You sociopaths. Look at all your emails up there. Your emails here, Perry Douglas. Your emails here, Julie Siak. When I contact the Monroe County Legislature, when I'm sending these documents to the Monroe County Legislature about your removal, $140,000 public defender Julie Siaka, I'm going to take a yellow pen and I'm going to highlight your name every single time, just so the Monroe County Legislature, when you have 100 emails like this, or I use Gmail, that's why I use it, because I didn't use that many. When I take a yellow pen and I highlight your name, Julie Siaka, which is right there, they'll be able to see and highlight your name. And then they can ask you, why don't you send this citizen the names of his prosecutor's silence that you obviously have in your possession in an electronic file or paper file? They'll use it in a different way. Here's Perry Douglas on the same July 10th, where I'm telling you, again, about disciplinary committees. I think you're in total oblivion about disciplinary committees, about how you're refusing to send me this information that you have, because I'm going to send him this. So on this July 10, 2023, it's just 2 times I communicated with you, Perry Douglas. Comply with the attached free informational document. Mail the names on prosecutor silence the address below. How is any citizen in jail when prosecutor talk to court? How is any citizen in jail 6 times prosecutor talk to court? That's called fanaticism, corruption, and hatred. Is that not fanaticism, corruption, and hatred? What's wrong with you, Perry Douglas? What's wrong with you is you're sick. The most simple way. That's why this is called sick. I'm going to get sick because I'm going to be on here in 30 minutes. And the last thing, one of the last things, Todd Baxter, April 9, 2026, when I'm in Farmington, New York, because I was locked out at 275 Park Avenue by Morton Properties at 434 Oxford Street in Rochester, New York. And when I write that criminal complaint about Morton Properties locking me out, Rochester Police Department Chief David Smith and Sheriff Todd Baxter are not going to do anything. Because landlords can violate the law in the state of New York, especially Monroe County and Rochester, New York, which I have up close and personal experience with. April 9, 2026, Todd Baxter, you're crazy, resign. Then I have these links here, including January 1, 2023, to you, Perry Douglas. My bus route here, Farmington Victor in Ontario County. So I had to get my birth certificate here. They helped me with this. The employee at Eagle Star in Farmington, New York, helped me with that. Birth certificate I had my whole life, gone because Antonio Espano Law Rally. Had to get a new Board of Elections card, a new driver ID card. I'm not going to go into details about it. It's my excellent friend John Signer. I just sent him a $200 check because he helped me out. That's why. So the Freedom of Information Law, I'm going to send to you. There's 100 here. You only got 6 tonight. These 100 here, I'm going to write 80. And they're going to arrive in the next week to 10 days. This is Freedom of Information Law. If I write 80, Sheriff Todd Baxter will refuse to comply with 80 because he's sick. My name is Christopher Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. I have been an innocent man my whole life.